have discussed a lot of things regarding the fundamental behavior of soils, and particularly their classification system, different types of weathering processes, how the soils are formed, how do they get deposited, and how do they get, what are the transporting agencies, and so on. Now, today I will be discussing about the classification scheme number 2 for soils, and this is what is known as the mechanical characterization of soils. Sometimes we can also call this as the classification. So, this could be either mechanical characterization or classification of soils. Now, one thing you should realize here is that soils can be classified in different ways. We have talked about the geological classification scheme, residual and weathered. We have talked about the characterization or classification of soils based on the transporting agencies, and we have also talked about the classification of soils based on their constituents. Now, we will be talking about how the mechanical attributes can be utilized to characterize or classify the soils. So, as far as the mechanical characterization or classification is concerned, we classify soils in two forms. The first one is a coarse grained material, coarse grained soil, and the second one is the fine grained soils. As the name suggests, the particle size happens to be the most important thing to differentiate between the class of the soils. Mostly when we talk about the coarse grained soils, we perform sieve analysis, which you must have done in the lab. Now, this is conventional. Is the conventional way of classifying the soils as a coarse grained material. There are different gadgets which I will be talking about in today's lecture, which are say NEO. So, NEO tools, or you may say gadgets. These are sophisticated instruments which are used for classification of the soils. Now, fine grained soils are normally classified based on something which is known as hydrometer analysis, which you might have performed in the laboratory, or we have again different type of sophisticated instruments which are used to characterize the soil. The process is simple. You take some oven dried soil and pulverize it and dry it so that the lumps are broken, and then by using a series of sieves you can find out what is the percentage of weight which is retained on the sieves. I hope this exercise you have done in the laboratory, you have done this classification. So, I am skipping this portion. You should be conversant with the sieve analysis. So, read about it and perform a laboratory experiment. Similarly, hydrometer analysis also I am sure you must have performed in the laboratory. I will be talking about the philosophy of how these tests are done. What is more interesting is in today's world the results which I get from any of the mechanical characterization schemes. So, results are very precious and these results are treated as the results which a pathologist gives to the medical professional, alright. So, looking at these results I can do a lot of diagnostics of the soils used to understand the fundamental behavior of the soils. And this is an art to make out what type of soil you are dealing with. Now, one of the ways to interpret the results would be in most of the conventional schemes, when we talk about the neo tools or the sophisticated instrument, we may get the image and we can measure the particle there itself in situ. But when you talk about the conventional systems where you are doing either sieve analysis or hydrometer analysis, normally we get what is known as particle size distribution curve. We do not use the word curve, though it is a curve, rather we writing curve we will use the word characteristics. Alright. In short way we write it as PSD, because a lot of information can be revealed or diagnosed from the particle size distribution graph or the curves. We normally use the word characteristics. A typical particle size characteristic curve would look like, this is a nomenclature, we plot as percentage finer than is written in some of the books. It is not a very good idea to use the word than, because it is understood that if I am considering diameter of particle, normally we write it in microns or micrometer. The way we define this term percentage finer than is corresponding to a diameter, we call it as dx. So, suppose if I get a graph like this, alright, this is a typical PSD. The way you plot it is, you do sieving, whatever is written on a certain sieve size, you find out what is the weight fraction and then plot it over here for a given diameter of the sieve or the aperture of the sieve. So, this is how this is read. So, this becomes one point. So, this is how the experimental points are joined together to get a PSD characteristics. Now, where is the technology part coming into the picture? This you will find in any book, but how a technologist will interpret the information from this graph is very, very important. So, this is a typical sieve analysis, and looking at the nature of the curve, alright, or the characteristics, I can define a lot of behavior phenomena. This could be something like this also. I could define a curve like this also, or I can get a soil where the characteristic curve would be, let us say, of this type, alright. The red one is defined as a poorly graded material, alright. Why poorly graded? Because most of the particles are falling in a certain range of particle size, starting from let us say 0 to 100%, and this side the diameter increases. The yellow one seems to be a step graded material. Or let us use the word soil. However, the white one would be a uniformly graded soil. So, looking at the nature of the graph or the characteristic curve, I can understand what type of soil I am working with. What is the philosophy behind this? The philosophy behind this is, at the most, first of all, I can have 100% of the soil mass, and then the minimum would be, let us say, in few microns. A poorly graded material cannot be compacted. So, imagine you have all snooker balls, and if you want to compress them together or bring them close to each other, it is not possible. Why? Because the sizes are so uniform that you cannot create a dense matrix out of it. So, absolutely difficult materials to compact. Compaction is next to impossible, is poor, let us say, alright. Size of the grains of the soils are uniform, and hence you can't compact them much. That means I cannot create a compact system out of it. Most of the soils which are lying in the Gangetic basin and which are prone to liquefaction, I think we have discussed the word liquefaction earlier, loss of strength because of shaking, earthquake, would be mostly poorly graded soils, alright. So, they cannot be compacted, you can't use them for designing a good, let us say, foundation pad. However, step graded soils, they look like as if they are the combination of two types of soils. So, this is soil number 1 and this is for soil number 2. So, this is step graded, or sometimes we also call this as gap graded, alright, as if they are the combination of two types of soils, tricky materials to utilize. Now, where is the technology? The technology is, tomorrow one of your customers is going to tell you, give me a finished product where the particle size are going to be only in certain range and I want a certain gamma d. Now, this becomes an interesting problem where technologists have to work. Material scientists, they are trying to pack the nanoparticles to a desired density for making a chip, let us say. It is a difficult task. This is absolutely impossible or poor. The best material to deal with as a civil engineering material would be a well graded material. Now, this is also known as sometimes well graded. The type of book which you follow, you will find these type of analogies. So, excellent materials to, or soils, material means soils, to compact and create a structure of your requirement, alright. Now, I am sure you must have realized until now everything is going very qualitative. We are saying poorly graded, well graded, step graded, gap graded, everything is qualitative. There is no quantification of the phenomena which we have done until now. So, what we do is, as far as the coarse grained materials are concerned, we try to quantify them by using dx, which are d15. Now, how would you read this? D15 is the diameter of the particle which is 15% finer than the entire particles. Is this part okay? So, d15 is the diameter of the particle which is 15% finer than the entire mass. So, in this type of a soil you will have certain value of d15. We use another term as d30, 30% finer than diameter. Then we use the term d45 sometimes, we use the term d60 sometimes, we use the term d85 also, nomenclature. And remember, d is the diameter in millimeters. So, one of the ways to read this graph is on x axis from left to right the particle diameter increases, alright. You should never plot it reverse, then the whole philosophy will be changed. So, the nomenclature is you plot the diameter on the x axis which is increasing in size. So, normally from micron range to millimeter range, and this is from 0 to 100%. Is this okay? So, when you do the laboratory experiment, please try to plot these graphs and interpret. Now, the interpretation number 1 is about the particle sizes. I hope you will realize we are talking about the mechanical characterization of soils. So, no chemical attributes are coming in the picture, no mineralogical attributes are coming in the picture, it is only the attributes, size, and based on size we define clay fraction, silt fraction, sand fraction, gravel fraction, cobble fraction, stone fraction, boulder fraction. Is this funda clear? So, we are not using here word the clay as the mineral, we are using here the clay as clay sized, silt sized, alright, gravel sized and so on. So, these are all sized, we define this as Y sized. Y could be clay, Y could be silt, Y could be sand, Y could be what it could be, see coarse sand, fine sand, then comes your gravels, then comes the cobbles, and then comes the boulders. So, the way we read it is clay sized, silt sized, sand sized. In sand, coarse fraction of the sand, fine fraction of the sand, gravel sized, cobble sized, I will remove S, boulder sized. One of the guidelines says that clay size is less than 2 microns, silt is less than 75 micron. This you have to remember, alright. This part you should remember. Sand is normally 4.75 micron first of all, less than 4.75 micron, gravel is less than 75 micron, no 75 mm, cobbles are less than 200 mm and boulders are greater than 200 mm. This is the classification system which is normally used as per BS, British standards. Alright, there is a small deviation as compared to other classification schemes. I will not go into those details. As far as the fine sand is concerned, the fine sand is normally less than 0.2 mm and coarse sand is less than 2 mm. This is as per the International Society for Soil Science. So, they are standard. Yes, please. This is 4.75, less than 4.7. Yeah, so I understand your point. So, this is less than, that is what I said, there is some discrepancy. So, the more and more, which one? 4.75 micrometer, yes, sands. No, this is micrometer. So, sand is 4750, is this okay? Mm, yeah. So, 4.75 mm, yes, and then you have less than 2 mm, 0.25 mm, 75, yeah, now it is all right. So, there could be a discrepancy in some of the particle sizes depending upon the type of course which you are following, but try to remember at least British standards, and this is what is going to help you. So, when you analyze these graphs, you plot these numbers over here and read out what is the fraction which is finer than. Is this okay? This I am sure you must have done in the laboratory. Now, one step ahead of this would be, there are few numbers which we define for coarse grained materials based on the sieve analysis, utilizing this concept where we define a term which is known as Cu. This is known as a coefficient of uniformity, and there is something known as Cc. We define this as coefficient of curvature. Sometimes we also call it as gradation, coefficient of gradation, alright. Now, what Cu and Ccs are? So, Cu is D60 by D10, is this correct, Rajat? And this is D30 square upon D60 into D10. Is this part okay? As far as coarse grained materials are concerned, the classification is done. So, you take coarse grained soils, texture would be very sandy material, gravelly sandy material, sieve them through a stack of sieves, find out the percentage which gets retained on these sieves, compute the percentage finer than that aperture and plot it with respect to diameter, plot this graph, from this graph get the dx values, classify the soil based on this nomenclature, compute Cu and Cc term, alright. And there are some standard numbers which are assigned to this, we will talk about that. Now, what is the application of the whole process as a technologist? Just try to remember this series, nothing more than that, rest I think you have understood. Those of you who will get a chance to work in the design of filters, and this is where chemical engineering becomes very close to geotechnical engineering, soil mechanics, alright. When you design different type of filters, different type of filter media, or when you design different type of filter for seepage control, talking about the design of dams. Dams are the ones which are most neglected objects in our society, and I hope you have realized that if you are not giving them due consideration, what is going to happen? Hope you are realizing in last 1 month whatever has happened in the country. Is this correct? You must be reading newspapers and all. So, this is going to be an interesting subject to discuss, we will be discussing quite in details. One of the components of the earthen dam is filters, and filters are nothing but the assembly of coarse grained material. Alright. So, when I say coarse grained soils, you will be utilizing different components, fractions in such a way that you can form a good filter media. Swimming pools have normally granular filter beds, all right, through which the water trickles, and these granular material are quite prone to give shelter to the bacterial activity. They get converted into biofilters, and through which I can pass the sewage, and the sewage can be treated. So, those of you who are interested, learn this more and more. When you design filters, the criteria is, do not try to mug this up, it is all available in the quotes. So, as a designer you will be getting quotes which you can use upon D85. This is just to showcase to you what is the application of the particle size characteristic curve, D15 of filter divided by D15 of soil. One of the guidelines to design the filters. The second guideline is the particle size distribution curve of the filter soil or the filter material should resemble the particle size distribution of the soil. Now, let me ask you a question. Suppose if I have PSD, now I will not be drawing xy axis all the time, and suppose if I say this is the soil, why are you designing filters? First application is which I said that you want to allow the sewage or the wastewater to trickle through it and get purified. Apart from this, the filter could be designed to stop erosion of the soil, fine, so that the particles of the soil get trapped in the pore space which has been created because of the grains. So, a typical conceptual model for a coarse grained filter material would be like this. This is the soil or the grains of the soil, and the finer particles, this would not be the grains of the soil, this would be a filter media. So, this would be a filter media, and the soils would come and sit somewhere here. Soil particles will come and get mechanically logged over here. So, this would be a soil grain. I hope you are understanding what I am trying to depict. The filter particles are acting as a sieve, and they will not let the fine grained material to pass through the voids. Is this okay? So, this is what becomes a good filter media. So, now if I extend this analysis over here, and if I ask you a question where the filter media should be sitting, what would be your answer? So, this subject requires a lot of intuitive thinking, and mugging is not going to help you. It requires dedicated understanding of the concepts. I am sure you must be realizing a lot of concepts. I keep on asking why, when, where, how. Now, this is what I expect from you, that you should be aware of this. For this you have to go back, read some literature, apply some mind, though I give you a lot of hints over here. So, anybody who can answer this question, if the soils are here, where the filter should be, on the left hand side or the right hand side? The soil particles have to be finer than the filter media. So, this answer is wrong. Why? There is no fun in providing a filter media which is finer than soils, agreed, because soils have to be protected. So, this is what we have learned today, correct. It is interesting, apply logic, believe me, you need not to mug up anything. So, this is the filter media, okay. This fulfills this condition now. Remember, this side the particle size is increasing, this size the percentage fraction is increasing, and this is the condition why I wanted to design filters, so that the fine particles of the soil get trapped and they do not come out of the matrix to stop erosion process. Alright. This is one constraint. The second constraint is, so this is what the first condition would be. What is the second condition? Soil is a very intelligent material. Remember, the moment you include something into it, it has a tendency to reject that inclusion unless the system is identical to it. Among all the construction materials which you will come across in the history of mankind or evolution, you will realize that the soil is the most intelligent material. So, intentionally I have drawn both the curves quite similar to each other, clear. So, another requirement is the PSD characteristic shape should be identical to the type of soil which you are trying to protect. Alright, they should be similar, as if they are slightly shifted on the right hand side. Now, if your material happens to be, let us say, a poorly graded soil, which are the chances in granular material sands, you can't have several sizes available in the system. The question would be, I can't achieve the density, because I have written there, you can't compact it, you can't create a compacted bed out of it. And if you really want to compact a material, this has to be a material where most of the particles of different sizes are available in it. Alright, then only the materials can be compacted. What is the theory behind this? The theory behind this is uniformly graded soil, well graded material. The first layer of the particles would be bigger. The second layer of the particles would, not layer I should use, the second types of particles which are available in the soil mass would be this, alright. The third types of soils would be finer than this, and so on. So, larger the variety of the particles which you have in the soil system, the chances of compacting it would be better, and this we will prove later on with the help of theory of compaction. Is this okay? Now, those of you who will be working in, let us say, interdisciplinary areas like growing grass on the pitches of the sporting fields, whatever, pitches or courts of different type of sports, what is expected? It is expected that you create this matrix first. Number 2, grow the vegetation. So, the roots of the vegetation should pass through the pores which are available in the system, and they should go and hold the bottom layers of the pitch or the coat. Agreed? And then comes the microbial unit. So, microbes will harp on these available spaces, they will grow over there, and they will form a strong system of soil, root, bacteria, environment, water interaction. Now, this is a hot subject on which people are working. Is this part clear?
Diameter of the particle increases, the percentage of its fineness should decrease, right?
Very good question. Remember, this graph has been obtained by sieving. You must have done sieve analysis in the lab. So, you must have seen the apertures on the sieve, clear. So, the topmost sieve is a big aperture or the small aperture sieve? Bigger. How would you read this? It is good that you have asked this question. So, the biggest particle, everything is finer than this, everything passes through this, agreed. The second sieve size is lesser than the first one, less particle size, 80% finer than this, agreed, and so on. So, it is good that you have asked this question for the sake of everybody. Percentage finer, finer is also same as the percentage passing. Anything which is finer than that particular aperture is going to pass through that sieve, and hence it is finer, but it is passing also. It depends upon what you are using. Anything else? Yes.
The filter which we use for water purification, If once the dust or the dirtiness is trapped in the filter, so is there any process to remove the dirt, or just the filter is got wasted?
Very good. So, excellent question. When I am teaching seepage analysis, if I do backwash, all right. So, what I am going to do? If I apply backwash, if I pump, let us say, some fluid inside the filter, and if I force these finer particles come out of the matrix, it's a sort of a washing. Clear? So, by applying back pressures or by applying backwashing, I can clean up the filters. So, you can rejuvenate them. Read more on the net about this. So, in most of the environmental engineering related problems, the biggest issue is you may design a filter and the filter stops working after it has lived its life. Agreed? So, what I am supposed to do? I am supposed to throw it, and the moment I throw it, this becomes a secondary source of contamination. And imagine a mattress which has lot of concentration of chemicals. So, where are you going to throw it? Big question. How would you lift it? Another question. So, better what you should do is keep on cleaning frequently, alright. Okay. Now, coming back to your another question regarding the cleaning up of the water which you are using in the candles of water purification system, their pores are going to be extremely small. So, they are made up of zeolitic material. I can create a mechanical sieve. Read more about this. This is a mechanical trapping I have created. All right. Based on the particle size, I am trapping the small particle. Clear? I can design a system of filters which could be a molecular filter. So, what is going to happen now? All these sieves, all these systems which are going to be in a matrix will trap cations and the molecules. Plasma treatment of different types of silica transplantation, different types of chemical processes which are taking place in the industry, ghee making, particularly vegetable oils, different type of medicines which you are doing are all based on sieves. Blood transfusion is another good example of how you would filter out the bad blood from the good blood. Good example of molecular sieve would be kidney of the human body. So, read about all this. Okay, is the concept clear? So, here we have gone from mechanical to molecular system. It is a different aspect altogether. So, in the candles which you are designing, all the cations will get held up, and hence the water gets purified.
Currently, there is not any technology for RO purifier to clean its filter. We are just throwing all the filter of RO purifier.
I think you know that RO is an obsolete idea, and people are again coming back to the point that RO should not be used, obvious reasons. All your calcium, sodium, magnesium has gone out of water, and that is what you are drinking, and people are saying that your vitamin deficiency is because of RO water and canned and bottled water. You read, a lot of discussion is going on. So, what they are doing again after doing RO, they are doing mineralization of water. Stupidity. Let us move on to now. Yeah, I will show you what is the state of the art in classification or characterization of coarse grained material. Remember, we are still talking about the coarse grained materials. So, when we deal with the coarse grained materials, all this is conventional, which has been done since 1930-40. Not much of fun here. But these two concepts, confocal micrography and optical micrography, people are using to study the particles in a better way. So, those of you who might have heard about neoprene bearings, clear? So, bearing, B-E-A-R-I-N-E, bearings, like you have ball bearings. So, neoprene bearings, people try to dose steel with some sort of additives. It could be carbon, it could be carbon black to very high speed carbon they add into it. So, when you do doping of the steel, it becomes very high strength, and its resilience modulus and other modulus are extremely high. So, when you are doing this type of research or application, then these type of studies become very important. I want to see the whole morphology of the particle. So, 2D and 3D types of analysis is done. This is a peculiar standard sands which I was talking about, that as per Indian standard this is supposed to be a spherical system of sands, which is not true. These are the thin sections which we have taken, and we have done the analysis. In 3D, the standard sand looks like this, highly irregular shapes. These are the glass beads which are made up of glass manufactured by industries, and this is how the complete modeling of grains is done in today's world. So, you take the photographs of each grain, sit down in your lab, maybe 3000, 4000 grains, you take photographs, and then you try to ascribe as many circles as you can. So, this is the grain of the sand, one of the grains, and then try to fit in as many circles as you can fit in inside the grain boundary, and one which is subscribing the entire thing, and then you take their ratios to define the sphericity, roundness and regularity. Those of you who might get a chance to work in earthquake engineering, soil dynamics, particularly for them this becomes very, very important. So, how spherical a system is, how rounded a material is, how regular a material is, and then by defining these indices we can go ahead with this. Those of you who are interested in reading much about it, read the papers which have been published by Prasad Bartake and myself long back, and then we have correlated the particle morphology with the shear wave velocities which are required to cause liquefaction of the soils. Another interesting thing, this is what is known as image analysis system. This is the pristine historic laser particle scanner on which we used to work maybe 15-20 years back, but now the world has become quite technologically advanced. So, just to avoid any copyright and unnecessary canvassing in the classroom, I have not included any particular website, but what you can do is whenever you get time, please go through all these websites where different vendors have come out with very sophisticated particle analyzers. So, gone are the days when people used to do all these things manually, or sieve analysis becoming obsolete. The reason is simple. If I am dealing with the sands which have lot of carbonate on them, or if I am having sands which might be having some sort of a alteration of the properties by any chemical process. Just now I was talking about a chemical alteration of the sand into mineralogical alteration, which I discussed long back. So, people like to see the real life situation rather than breaking the bond and breaking the carbonate adhesion between the grains and so on. So, one of the systems is known as image analyzer, which we have in IIT. I think most of the departments would be having Malvern, and just go and check out the video which would give you enough idea about how this particle size analysis is done for the coarse grained materials, and everything is computerized for that matter, and you can get results quickly. Fine. Then sieves which you might be using in the laboratory, but these are slightly sophisticated sieves which we have in our laboratory, and these are laser cut sieves, and we can go up to 2 micron dry. But this is an art, and there is a paper which we have written in ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineers, where we have shown that why all this should not be studied anymore. But coming back to the third year classroom, I have to talk about all these things. So, this is advanced research, and there I am trying to show that none of this works. If you have time, if you have talent and idea, go through this. Alright, this work was done by Shanta Kumar and myself in 2013-14, I don't know, S. Shanta Kumar. So, these are the sieves which are used for dry sieving up to 20 microns, 20 microns, and these are known as ultra sieves. The results of soft imaging are this. Earlier days my students used to work on this type of histograms. 4,500 particles have been counted, you will not believe, but this is what has been done, and then we used to draw a particle size distribution. Now life has become simple, we have different type of gadgets where you can do analysis quickly. Now just to show you something interesting, different type of materials and their specific surface area, and this is silica fume. You remember we have been talking about 20 meter square per gram is the surface area of the silica fumes, and this is how the statistics used to be done, number of particles, they are falling in which range, and based on that you see the predominance of the particles. There are many research papers which are available where people would like to withdraw certain part of the particle size distribution curve, and that becomes a synthetic soil. So suppose somebody orders for a specific purpose, I need this type of a soil, clear, how would you create it? So this becomes an art. So from this I would like to take out few fractions by sieving them, and then this becomes my synthetic soil, and then how to manipulate this is a interesting idea. Now let me start discussing about now the fine grained soils. I am sure you must have dealt with fine grained materials like silty, clayey, sandy soils in your laboratory experiments. It becomes difficult if you are dealing with the fine grained materials. So one of the ways to find out their particle size distribution characteristics would be hydrometer analysis. This is also known as sedimentation analysis. How many of you remember Stokes' law? How many of you remember terminal velocity, critical velocity? You remember? Very good. So when you were studying 10+2 physics, you never thought that where it will be utilized. The complete geomechanics of fine grained soils is based on the Stokes' law, which is nothing but the sedimentation analysis, where we will be using the concept of terminal velocity. Sometimes this is also known as critical velocity. But try not to use critical velocity term, let it be terminal velocity. A good example is drops of the rain, alright, when they fall and when they come on the, when they hit the earth, they normally hit at terminal velocity, correct. As I said, these are tricky materials to handle, and hence nowadays people are taking use of laser particle scanning, laser diffractometers they are using. Sometimes they use SEM, though it is difficult, I think we have discussed about this, and sometimes they use what, CT scanning, that will not give you particle size fine grained material, SEM of different types. Okay, so let us go back to the conventional concept. Fine grained soils, when you are dealing with, the moment you put them in oven at high temperature, their activity is lost. So you should not have done this mistake, air dried. So we will put a condition over here. Remember, in coarse grained material we said take the soil, so take the soil, pulverize it and put it in the oven in the coarse grained material. In fine grained material we should not do oven drying, we should do air drying. Remove the clots. Fine grained materials are very notorious. What happens? Because of the surface charge which we have talked about, double layer theory and all those things, the moment hygroscopic moisture is available, they form clots. So several particles will come together and they will form a clot. Clot is a sort of a agglomeration of the particles. alright. So, you can just break them by using a light tamp. Normally we use wooden mallet, we do not use a heavy tamp also. Having done this, try to get rid of all sorts of unwanted materials. What are these unwanted materials? Number one, organic matter. So, what do? They will allow the interaction of the soil with H2O2, hydrogen peroxide. It oxidizes the organic matter which is present in the system. Fine. We use some deflocculating agent. What these deflocculating agents do? They disperse the fine grained material. Sodium hexametaphosphate is a good example of this. Yes. It breaks the bonding, particularly the hydrogen bond H2O, and that is it. So, when you say is the water hygroscopic moisture which is binding all the particles forming the cloud, when you add these type of system, they reduce surface tension, number one, and number two, they break the hydrogen bonds between the different clay particles. So, this is what is added to disperse the fine grained materials, so that each particle becomes an individual entity. Just check it out, give me the correct formula. To create an individual particle which would fall in a column of water. Sometimes what we do is we heat it also. To get rid of the compounds of Fe2O3 which are mostly present in the soil and Al2O3. I hope you can realize it is a sort of a manipulation which you are doing with the material to change the basic characteristics, and then you are dealing with it. So, there are a lot of limitations of the material. Normally sodium hexametaphosphate is less than 4% by weight. Let us talk about the principle of sedimentation. See, those of you who are preparing for competitive exams, you have to remember these things because there is no other way. This is meant for mostly silty and clay soils. First, the concepts of the analysis, and then I will write down in a typical bookish manner which you have to mug up. Normally, we consider a jar or a volume which is quite big. So, this is the volume of water. We fill it up with water the solution of the soil in which all this has been done. You have treated the soil with H2O2 if organic matter is there, you have added sodium hexametaphosphate to get rid of the flocculation, making it deflocculated, you have heated it with Fe2O3, Al2O3 to get rid of, alright. Take W of this soil and dissolve it in V volume of the fluid, water. So, this is the V of water in which you have dissolved this and then mix it thoroughly. I hope you must have done this. Alright. So, once they become a slurry of good consistency, I hope you can realize why we are not using sieve analysis, sorry, we are not using sedimentation analysis for coarse grained material, because if coarse grained materials are there in the process of making a slurry, half of the particles will settle down. So, this becomes a heterogeneous mix and hence we never use coarse grained material, we filter it out, and from the soil after filtration of the fine grains, that fraction only is used for this analysis. So, W is the weight of the solids which you have taken, dissolved in V of water to make a slurry, and this slurry is transferred into the jar. So, this becomes your slurry in the jar. Alright. I am sure you must have used the hydrometer. So, hydrometers are used to measure the specific gravity of the solids in a slurry. A good example of hydrometer which is used for finding out the quality of the milk would be a lactometer. I can measure the specific gravity of the fluid and then I can know whether this is adulterated or not. So, as far as the mechanics is concerned, if I consider a particle of a fine grained material which is falling freely in the system, and if I zoom it, this is how it will look like. A poor assumption is that even the fine grained soils are spherical in nature. It is an assumption. The Stokes law limitation is it is valid only for circular particles. So, if G is the diameter of this grain, can you draw the free body diagram? What is the third force which has to act? Any idea? No? You are doing fluid mechanics? Surface. Viscous force, you are right. What is that viscous force known as? Drag, very good. So, if this particle is dropping down in an infinite column of fluid, clear? Why infinite? Because this V is much larger than volume of the soil, grain. Is this okay? So, if it is going down, there will be a drag force. What is the magnitude of this force? Anybody remembers? Very good, yes. Yeah, you are right. So, this is 6 pi, I define as a mu, eta is what your viscosity, okay. Alright, so you are convenient with eta. Eta is porosity if you remember. So, notations have to be carefully chosen, otherwise chances are when you will be dealing with the problems later on in the porous media when the fluid is flowing, you will goof it up, fine. So, 6 pi mu r is the radius into, very good. So, this is 6 pi mu d by 2 into V. Rest is simple. So, this is the gravity. So, 4 by 3 pi r cube into what will be this component, gravity component? Very good. No, gamma d. Gamma d is the matrix. It cannot be only gamma. So, when I said hydrometers measure what? Specific gravity, clear? So, this is going to be the unit weight of the grain. This is okay. So, this becomes your volume into density mass multiplied by G will be taken care of, clear? Is this okay? And then you have another force acting. What is that force? Buoyancy, very nice. So, this becomes 4 by 3 pi d by 2 cube into, now tell me what this would be? Gamma, very good. And that is your equilibrium. This gamma s has to be substituted in the form of, yes, first you understand this thing that your this has to be in the form of G. Is this okay? Why? Because you are doing hydrometer analysis. So, you should be lowering a hydrometer over here. This is how the hydrometer looks like. This is the CG of the hydrometer. Those of you who have done this experiment, you have done very good. So, what type of corrections you applied? Those 3 corrections. The first one is temperature. Why? Normally hydrometers are designed for 20 degrees centigrade. So, when you are working at room temperature 27, 28 degree, you have to apply this expansion of the hydrometer. Normally this is filled up with what do you call it is as lead. So, the first temperature correction has to be applied. Number 2, meniscus. Mostly soils, when they are in the slurry form, what happens? You know, the meniscus is getting formed like this. This is a menisci. So, when you look at the materials which are not transparent, you have to read at this surface and not at the bottom of the menisci. So, you have to add this much of the correction which is known as meniscus correction in the hydrometer reading. Sure, you must have observed that hydrometer readings would be increasing from top to bottom, is it not? So, if I say that this is R value, it is understood that if R is known, G will be equal to 1 plus R, and normally R is up to 3rd decimal place. This is okay. So, you apply the temperature correction, meniscus correction. Number 3 is whatever additives you have added over here, because of their addition, what has happened? The gamma S of the slurry has got changed. So, this is the additives, mostly dispersive agents. Correct? So, I will give you the correct answer of what these functions are. Write down these expressions and try to prove it. Of course, there is nothing much to be proved. d square upon 18 rho s minus rho w upon mu into g. Try to prove this. Rho s into g is gamma s, which is the density of the slurry, and rho w into g is gamma w, which is the unit weight of the water. Now try to reverse this function and write d square as a function of v, and this is what is known as, I have to be careful, this has to be a small v because capital V I am using for volume. So, please be careful, this is small v, a small v. So, this will become 18 into V into mu upon rho s minus rho w into g. In other words, d would be under root of d. So, what it indicates is d is a function of root of v. I think this is simple, you can just sort it out. What is the interpretation of the whole thing? The first one is, this is valid only for particle size less than 2 micron, which is a typical clay size fraction, that is a big thing. Number 2 is, particle is a spherical particle which you are assuming, though clay particles are platelets and they are not spherical. Number 3, the volume of the jar in which the suspension is taking place much larger than the volume of the particle, alright. Brownian motion. So, less than 2 micron is for not considering the Brownian motion. Less than 2 micron the Brownian motion will start, and hence we cannot do that, yes. Turbulence is not, so turbulence in the sense when you are dipping it in the soil, then you are disturbing it, that is not a limitation of the Stokes law. Let us consider this is the jar, and at this point I am measuring the density of the soil, unit weight of the soil, alright, and this point is matching with this point. One of the questions is, how would you get the V value? One of the assumptions could be that velocity is equal to L by T, where L is the distance which the particle has travelled from one point to another point during sedimentation process. Extremely difficult to obtain, but the classical geomechanics talks about this. So, imagine if I have laser obscuration method, those of you who are interested, read about this LOTM. In our department we have this machine. So, this is basically a sort of a laser obscuration transformation method, laser obscuration time method, yes. So, what it does is, when a particle is falling from a particular distance, let us say point number A to point number B, I can capture this by using a laser beam, and hence I can obtain the L and I can notice the time. This type of device is used to understand how the rotation and the dynamics of the particle is taking place about its axis and so on. You can do the shape analysis also. This is one concept. In conventional geomechanics, when we are dealing with hydrometer, we are not going to use this concept much unless somebody measures in how much time a particular particle during settling is falling from one place to another place. Sometimes it might be visible. You are dealing with a soil, you must have noticed, once you keep it on a flat bed, the particles start settling down and the topmost water becomes clear, and you will be having sediments getting deposited over here. Now, this logic tells me bigger the diameter, the velocity is going to be more. So, all big particles are going to sit here, and as you go up, the particle size would be decreasing. Is this okay? Is this part clear? Now, if I assume that there is a hypothetical plane at this point, and the thickness of this plane is, let us say, dz, and n is the fraction of the particles which are available in the system which are finer than this diameter of particle d. So, it is a sedimentation column where the sedimentation is occurring. I have taken a hypothetical plane in the system of thickness dz, and I am assuming at a given time all the particles which are greater than diameter d I have settled down, and whatever is remaining in the system are n% finer than. Clear? This analysis we will have to do later on, related with g, related with d, related with the velocity v. Yeah, you are right, very good. So, say gamma s. So, if you see here, this is the density of the suspension or the slurry. So, this has to be greater than gamma w, correct, you are right, otherwise sedimentation will not occur. So, the soils which might be having components lighter than water, this is another limitation he is forcing us to create now in this series. If the soils are organic in nature, they cannot be used, and hence you get rid of them, because they will be floating only on the water surface and they will not settle, and hence this analysis cannot be done. This is another limitation.